Good afternoon, everyone. And that was an electrifying performance by Siddharth. Thank you. All right, so this actually is a favorite time for my session, post-lunch, especially when I'm in the audience, food coma. But I see that the audience is all live, energetic, enthusiastic. So let's talk about retail data cloud. I'm sure you've heard of infrastructure clouds, you've heard of application clouds. Today we'll understand what a data cloud is all about, especially as it pertains to this industry. And again, I love the setting with all that ambient noise in the back end. If folks at the demo booth can hear me, can we have some silence, please? Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and set some context. And I was there in the audience, I heard the panel. I think it was amazing where we heard about some of the disruptions that are happening in the retail industry. It was just amazing to hear views from all the panelists and again from Brian as well when he spoke. Now, when typically we think about the term disruption, there are some negative connotations, right? And I've taken the liberty to put those up on the slide. We've been through all of this and we've seen COVID. I don't want to talk about the pandemic, that's done. But I see disruption in a very positive way. For example, if you look at Indian retail, right? This entire announcement around the ONDC is fantastic. I was reading up some of the ET retail articles and looks like 2/3 of the stores today are IoT enabled. That is fantastic. Over the last 12 months, 72% of shoppers have gone online when they wanted to buy a product, whether they bought it online or when they eventually went to a store. Their initial touch point was an online website or a retail or a mobile app, right? So these are very interesting aspects around retail that we are seeing today. And obviously, as we start talking about what's really happening from a data standpoint, and that's what we'll talk about in the session today, but at the center of it all is the customer. And again, we've heard this from the panel as well since morning. It all starts with the customer, obviously the customer experience. What is it that you want to deliver? We heard conversations around hyper-personalization. How do you personalize emails? How do you personalize the next recommendation that goes out to the customer? So this industry is by far the most focused on the end customer. But at the same time, there are two other aspects, right? One is the channel that you use to reach out to the customer. Digital, e-commerce, physical stores, all of that. Now, how do you build capabilities in these different channels from an insight standpoint so that you can deliver that experience to the customer? At the same time, how do you manage your backend, which is the supply chain, the operations part of it, to ensure that your customer always gets the right kind of experience when they're looking for the products and services that they intend to buy from a retailer, right? So this is what we're going to talk about. And obviously, we've seen innovations, right? Again, we heard a lot of these from the panelists, some fantastic things around new business models, absolutely new category creations, right? For example, retailers becoming media publishers, new entrants. I don't know how many of you have heard about card.com. They literally allow you to set up shop from scratch. The entire tech is provided by card.com. In case you want to set up e-commerce websites, you want to do merchandising, you want to connect with inventory, all of that is done by them so that you end up focusing on your business. That's like literally a new category that's been created. And obviously there are categories that were already there, which are seeing significant acceleration. We heard about this speed delivery, right? This thing around quick commerce. How quickly can you go and deliver a product or a service back to the customer, right? So this is something that we are seeing a lot of innovation in this space. Now, having painted a very nice positive picture, we all understand because we are from this industry, we know what's really happening, right? It's not easy to deliver all of that, right? And okay, I went ahead, but talking about specifically around data, you saw all of those aspects, but what is really required to deliver all of those capabilities, that innovation, is data. And this is where we've seen a lot of organizations struggle to set up or lay out a very powerful data strategy. Where will my data come from? How will I transform my data? And very importantly, how will I make it easily available? The keyword here is easily available to the consumer. And when I talk about consumer, I'm talking about data analysts, data scientists, developers. How do I deliver it to them when they need it so that they can deliver on their promise of analytics, insights, and data science, right? So this has been a struggle. This has also been a struggle because almost every second customer that we talk to relates back to this conversation around data silos. Yes, we have all the data, but this data for this department is sitting with them. It's a separate data mart. And getting that data together to deliver that single unified customer experience is a nightmare for a lot of organizations as you start growing, right? And this is where we figured that there's an opportunity for an organization like Snowflake to step in and help, which is where we said that we believe that organizations need a single platform that can hold all of your data in one place so that you can quickly deliver it to the consumer or to the persona that needs access to that data. Now, what is equally important is that it is not just the platform, it is not just the tech, but also relevant partnerships that make this happen. And I'm going to talk about what those partnerships mean as we go through subsequent slides. So this is what led to the genesis of this architecture called the Retail Data Cloud. So this is something that we launched in March this year. And it talks about three things that we bring together, right? The first one is the core platform that provides the tech to deliver data in one place, talk about delivering different data workloads like a data warehouse, a data lake, data engineering, data science, all of that on one single platform. The promise is that there's one place where you'll have all of your data. We're here to cut down on all of the silos, right? And we'll look at what the platform allows you to deliver. But beyond the platform, there's also something interesting that we've done. We tied up with a bunch of partners, and I'll talk a little more about this, where they deliver solutions to the retail industry on top of this data platform. And you'll hear a little more about it. And then finally, there's industry data. We all understand that as part of our regular business, we have our own data, we generated customer insights and so on, but we also end up using data sets from third-party providers who deliver it to you for a fee, right? Now, how do we make that entire experience of consuming your data, which is first-party data, your partner and your supplier data, which is what we call second-party data, and third-party data that comes in from these providers of data sets like weather, demographics, financial data, market demographic data, all of that in one single place. And that is what we call industry data. So the Retail Data Cloud is all about getting this data into one place, the tech, the partnerships, and these different data sets, right? So let's talk about the platform first, right? We'll talk about each of these concepts, but we'll first talk about the platform. So this is a platform that allows you to get all of your data in one place, be it structured data that we've all been traditionally using. It could be semi-structured data that typically we end up getting from a lot of social media feeds, so on and so forth, right? JSON data, XML data, what have you. And very interestingly, we also allow you to get in unstructured data, right? Video files, audio clips, if you want to do sentiment analysis via your data science tools, all of that. So think of the data type and you'll have the ability to get it into one place so that it is ready for analysis. Now, this platform is delivered to you as a service. It's a platform that is completely managed by Snowflake so that you don't end up managing data or operationalizing data. You end up focusing on consumption of that data. Okay. And then finally, this is a platform that delivers to you a consumption model, which means you pay exactly for the services that you consume. So there's X amount of storage and Y amount of compute that you've consumed on the platform. That's exactly what you end up paying for. Now, like I said, this is a platform that's available on popular hyperscaler clouds like AWS, Azure, and GCP in multiple regions across the globe. Now, the moment I mention cloud, a lot of antennas go up saying this is critical data, there's PII data, it is sensitive data, how do I take it to the cloud? So obviously there's an element of governance and security that's built into the platform. And like any other typical shared responsibility model, that's what Snowflake delivers as well. So all of your data in one place, easily accessible to the consumers in a language of their choice. Now, typically, when you use data warehouses, you start thinking SQL. But today, there are different personas. There are data engineers, there are data developers, there are data scientists who are very comfortable with languages like Python, Scala, and Java. You could choose your language and just get access to all of that data. The platform allows you to do that, right? So that's what the platform does. You can scale up, you can scale out on demand. And like I said, that's exactly what you end up paying for, right? For folks in the demo booths, can we have some silence, please? Thank you. Then we talk about those partnerships, and this is interesting because the platform on its own is great, right? But when you want solutions on top of the platform, this is what we announced as part of the Retail Data Cloud. And obviously, you'll see a lot of services partners, there's technology partners, there's a Powered by Snowflake program where we have partners that create data applications on top of our platform, which are retail oriented, and they deliver it to you. One example that's really interesting is what we did with Amazon specifically. So what Amazon decided was they will share their vendor central application and their order forecast details on Snowflake. So if you're a retailer or you're a CPG who is already having their products on the Amazon platform, you now have access to all of this data without setting up any complex pipelines, ETLs, none of that. You have your data ready, you can just query that and make sure that you understand what are the purchase orders that are potentially being put up on the Amazon platform for your set of products, right? Similarly, we'll talk about the data services or the data sets that are available on what we call the Snowflake Data Marketplace. This is a marketplace where there are different kinds of data sets that are available. We heard Vikram from Reliance talk about weather data. If I'm not mistaken, on the panel, right? He spoke about how monsoon wear could be relevant in the Northeast, but not somewhere else. Now, how do you get access to all of this weather data, COVID data? What are the demographic patterns that are happening? Now, what is interesting is that all of these data sets are readily available for you on the Snowflake Data Marketplace. All you need to do is subscribe, and those data sets are available to you live real time. So you're no longer in a situation where by the time the data arrives through complex pipelines and FTPs and whatnot, by the time you get the data, it is stale. And you end up with the entire cycle again, right? So you have real-time data that's delivered to you. One interesting data set that comes to mind is a provider called Numerator. And they provide a product called Secure Enrich, which allows retailers and brands to exchange data in a secure manner using something called data clean rooms. This is a concept that allows you to share data about consumers without actually sharing PII data, right? So you get to know which is a popular brand, but you don't get into who purchased it, right? Because that is PII data. You don't give out all of those details. So you do something called double blind joins. Now, how do you get all of this data? How do you do these joins? That is where these data sets are really relevant. So this is what the Retail Data Cloud really looks like, right? So you have literally the who's who of the retail industry, whether it's a data set, whether it's a CPG, whether it is a provider or just an aggregator. You have all of these on the Data Cloud. And what those dots that you see there are actual customer accounts on Snowflake. And the lines between those dots are indicating actual data flow. So this is indicating that data is being shared between all of these different accounts without having to actually transfer data. The data is readily available, right? So this is a secure sharing of data, as we call it with Snowflake. Now let's talk about what is it that we deliver. And again, this is something that we heard some very interesting examples on the panel. We heard about increasing our ability as an organization to drive personalization. Hyper-personalization. How do I know the customer to a point where I literally send them information about what I predict they will buy next, right? So that is something that I will talk about as we go through quickly. Improving supply chain operations. This is another example that I'm going to take up in a case study that I'll talk about. And then finally, enabling data-driven merchandising or inventory. How do you make sure that you don't end up wasting inventory? How do you get it just in time? And that is something that all of these data insights eventually allow you to do. This is interesting. I'm sure all of you have heard of this brand, ASICS, sportswear, shoes, very, very popular. They are a customer of Snowflake. And one of the outcomes, I like the concept about outcomes, right? One of the outcomes that they could see is they could achieve a 7% positive click rate on email personalization. The mails that went out to their customers saying, here's what we feel you're going to buy next, and offer them discounts and all of that, that click rate based on personalized data that they were able to get out of the Snowflake platform went up by 7%. Now, how do you think they did that? All of the stuff that I spoke about, getting access to third-party data, getting access to structured data about sales and all of that, but what they also did was, they have this application called Runkeeper that allows them to track the number of steps, track health statistics and all of that from smartwatches and mobile phones and all of that. And obviously with consent, they are able to get that information into the same data platform. Now they were able to join all of this information and figure out possibly here's what this customer is going to buy next. And powering those decisions was the Snowflake platform in the backend. And for my last slide, again, this is very interesting. This is my personal favorite because it goes beyond just data warehouse, data lakes, those kind of conversations. This is where Kraft Heinz and Albertsons, which is a CPG and a retailer, decided to share data using Snowflake. And remember, when I spoke about sharing of data, it's just literally being able to query each other's data in a secure manner. So now, while Kraft Heinz produce and products, right? They know exactly what kind of inventory usage is happening at Albertsons. So now both of them are able to predict, here's the kind of inventory that I need based on the demand that possibly I will need or I will see from an Albertsons store or a web front. And this is possible because it is literally a real-time pipeline that's set up between both of these organizations. And this is done in a secure manner. And there are many more such examples, but given that we had this much of time, I'm through with my presentation. We're more than happy to come and talk to you. Please do connect with us on LinkedIn or other social media channels. I hope this was useful for you. Thank you.